Hi everyone, hope you're doing great and amazingly today. I wanted to share with you this amazing project that I've been working on, meant for agencies that have thousands and thousands of leads incoming every month and wants to automate, in this case, the lead scoring process. So imagine you are a company like this. In this case, this is my company and NBA Solutions, and you have a lot of leads coming every month through a funnel. Maybe it's a form, maybe it is a your website, maybe it is from YouTube or whatever. So you are receiving a lot of leads, and you have someone in your team, in your agency, that is manually giving them a score, like from 1 to 10 or from 1 to 5 or whatever. So this is the reason why I built a solution to save a lot of time connecting GoHighLevel with FastAPI and Gemini. So this is the system. This is the system that I built. But before explaining anything about the system itself, I would like to explain how everything works, how the, the logic works behind it. So whenever a lead is created inside GoHighLevel, it gets added as a contact and it sends a webhook to our server. In this case, I'm going to use localhost. And when this hits the trigger, the webhook inside FastAPI, what it does is it's always running, listening for events. It sends the leads information. In this case, I'll be using information such as the name, the email, the budget of the user, because this is meant for a software company, the type of service that they are interested in, that can be software development, automation development, or consulting, and the additional information field, which is for free text. And this is the juiciest part, because this is where um, the AI model, which is Gemini 2.5 Flash, gets the intent and the most information about the client's yes, the leads ideas and what he wants to do or what they want to do with the project. If they are busy, or they want the project to be done urgently and they have a pretty huge budget, then they are going to get a higher score. So that is how everything works, and then everything gets saved into Postgres, into a Postgres database, so that we can query it, we can save it, we can have it on our server, and we can query it with the API itself. So now let's dive into the code. First of all, we have this, the most important folder, which is app, and we have several Python scripts. Database is the one with the initialization for SQL Alchemy, which is the package that we use to handle SQL inside of the FastAPI project. Then we have the Gemini, which is the one that where, of course, we handle all the AI part. We handle the LLM. So in this case, we are using Gemini 2.5 Flash, which is actually free and up to a certain limit. And here we set up the prompt. You are a sales qualification expert. Score this lead for a software development agency. We give it the name, email, budget, service interested in, and additional information. Score the lead from 1 to 10 based on these three points. And this is what separates production from a demo. If we don't use a function like this one, score lead, this is the function that the agent is using, and we set the mode to function calling any, because it has to call a function. When we call this function, we are making sure that we are getting this output, score and reason. And this is the most important thing, because otherwise, if we don't have a function, let's say we have a lead, we would get some output in a natural language, like I gave this lead a score of 7 because of this, and that doesn't make any sense. We are not getting a JSON actually that we can use to feed to update GoHighLevel with those two new fields. So that's the reason why we are using a function, and we have a fallback, which is this score 5 medium. So if there if for some reason the tool could not determine the score automatically, then we have the go high level script, which is this one, ghl.py, which handles only two functions that we are going to later use in FastAPI for the post and the get methods. So in this case, we have update context score, which gets the information from Gemini and updates the custom fields in GoHighLevel after the scoring is done by the AI agent. We can check it out here. In this case, I've been testing it, so this these are the fields that it updates, and then we have the other function, which is get contact, that is later used in the get method of the API. Using the contact ID, it gets the contact from any contact from GoHighLevel. So that's the how the script works. It has a personal token integration that uses as a better API key, and it's a pretty simple, pretty straightforward API to use. Then for the main model, I'm going to display this later. We have the models.py, which uses SQL Alchemy to um, describe all the fields from the leads table, which is, of course, exactly the same one that we have on Postgres. As you can see here, GHL lead scoring, that's the name of my database, and this is the name of the table, which is leads, which is the exact same name, case sensitive, as we have here on models. So this is what we use, the description that we use to handle the database. And schemas, it's quite similar and can be a confusion, but this is how FastAPI structures the data that it receives or sends. In this case, we have GHL webhook payload, which is the information that we get from GoHighLevel, and the lead response, which is the information that we send to GoHighLevel after the scoring is done. I mean, it's the response, just as it is explained in the class name. And lastly, we have the main model. So we import FastAPI, SQL Alchemy, and a lot of other um, packages, and we use a secret key here. We use an API key, but this API key is internal, and all this information I forgot to tell you, but we get it from the .mb file. I'm not going to show you this because I have sensitive information, but in the repo in GitHub, I have a .env.example, which it looks exactly like the one I have here, but without the data. And here you have the database URL that you would use for Postgres. You would have, if you want to do it yourself, you would have to change it with your information. In this case, the user, the password, the port, and the data in the table name. Gemini API key, GoHighLevel API key, and the API secret key, which is a random set of characters and numbers. It could be anything like this, because we use it internally as a way to authenticate and to make our own API secure, because it is public and you don't want anyone besides you and your team to access this API. So that's the reason why we use as an API key inside an internal API key inside of FastAPI. that is the API key that we have here. So that's the reason why we have this function. If it's not the same API key, it gets a 401 error, which is invalid or not authorized. This endpoint is waiting, webhook GHL is waiting for an event, a lead created from GoHighLevel to use it and get the information and finally check whether it exists on the database, the actual database that we have on Postgres. And finally, if it doesn't exist, it gets the lead data and sends it to the score lead function. And then with the information that we get from the scoring result, we add the new lead to the database. The API makes the commit so that it gets actually sent, it gets inserted actually into the Postgres database, and then we update the contact score. Finally, we return success. And then we have two other endpoints, which are to get the leads and any leads in this case with a skip and a limit and another parameter another filter which is minimum score, and based on these queries from the user we send the user, the API sends to the user the leads that fulfill these parameters. And we also have this one for getting specific leads specific leads with a certain GoHighLevel contact ID. So it queries the database and gets the leads with that exact GoHighLevel contact ID, and that's what it returns to the user. So that's basically how everything works. And we also use Alembic for controlling the database and the changes and migrations for the database. Now let's test the API. But before that, I wanted to tell you why I use FastAPI and why I also use HTTPX instead of requests here in FastAPI. And the main reason for that is that first of all, FastAPI is async native. So when it comes to waiting for APIs, in this case we are working with Gemini API, and we are also working with GoHighLevel API. That's a really big plus. That's a really big pro when working with waiting API responses, external API responses, and also FastAPI generates automatically documentation with the Swagger UI, that which is something that we are going to watch we are going to see in a few minutes, and also HTTPX, which is something that we use here and whenever we have to do a request. And the reason we use this and not request, which is more common, is because it is also async native. So what HTTPS X works great with FastAPI, and that's the reason we are using those. So now let's test everything. There we are. There we have the server running on our local host, and I think I activated Ngrok before. So we have this domain from Ngrok, because the reason we use Ngrok to tunnel to tunnel this our local host is to make it available for the rest of the internet, so that GoHighLevel can actually send the webhook post request to our server. That's the reason we are using it. And I forgot to show you this. This is really important. You have to create an automation in GoHighLevel. This is one of that I have created here. This new workflow, it's published, it's working right now. And you can check it out here. It's incredibly simple, only 2 nodes. When a contact gets created, it sends a post request to this URL. Just as I showed you before, this is the base directory, and this is the uh, endpoint. And here I have a funnel. No, this is not the funnel. I have a form here. I built this form. This is a really, really, really easy form. Do the preview here. Perfect. So this is a form like for a software agency where we have all this information. Then we have this drop down with these three options: budget and additional information, which is free text, where the client can, where the future lead can put any information they want. And let me show you in context the fields that we have. This is really important. You have to create these fields because obviously they don't exist inside GoHighLevel. So these are fields that already come with the example here. And whenever we want to add a field, we can manage fields and add custom field, add it, maybe text, next, field name, text example, and we can assign it to contact, opportunity, compact. In this case, this is for contact, and the group is any one of these. In this case, I added them to additional information because I consider them additional information from the lead. And that's it. You hit save and it is created. The unique key, you have to copy it because this is the name that gets into the actual API. So those are the keys that we use inside the different Python scripts. Now the service is running. Here we have the tunnel within Grok. We have the database here so that we can query it. In fact, if we query it right now, we will get a few, only 5 leads because I've been testing. So that's the reason why, and I didn't clean it. So that's the reason why we are getting those. And finally, we can test how it would work. So let's put a name here. I don't want to use mine specifically, but we're going to do something like John Smith, this phone number, which is my phone number if you want to call me. And for an email, let's say like johnny@gmail.com. We want to do software development. And let's say we have a budget, a really interesting budget of $15,000. Then let's describe a project. I would like you to a SAP. Let's use this information because this is what the AI model is going to catch. It's going to analyze to say, okay, is this client worth it or is it not, or how much of a priority should I give this client? That is what the AI will do. So now, if we test it, we submit. We appreciate your feedback. We go to here, the server. Perfect. Yes, amazing, amazing. This is what we received because I had a few free print lines just because of just for the sake of debugging, and we have the payload, which was from the webhook. This is the information from the lead from the webhook. And then everything, this is the update payload. Once it goes through Gemini, it sends the update info with a put request to the GoHighLevel lead, and that way everything gets updated. So now if we check GoHighLevel, we can do this, update, refresh a little bit, and then we should find the new lead with the additional fields. Johnny, Johnny at Gmail, and this really important. It's quite correct. Lead score 10, and let's see the reason. The lead has a high budget, 15,000, significantly above the normal 2,000. A clear urgent need for custom automation involving multiple integrations and high urgency indicated by ASAP, as soon as possible, making it a high quality lead likely to convert. And if you check the model, and this is really important because this is not something that the model created or somehow invented. No, it is explained here. The budget, the higher the better, normally around 2000. That is what I say, and what can be actually, according to your company, it can be edited, it can be customized. Service interested in consulting is the cheapest, following by custom automations, and the most expensive is custom software development. And additional information, check this free text field to verify the lead's intent, urgency and description of the project. So now just check John Smith, right? So now we should have it in Postgres. It should be correct. There we have it. John Smith. John Smith, Johnny at Gmail, the number, and all the information. What does this mean? And why is this important? You could have Postgres, SQLite, MongoDB, or even BigQuery from Google. The thing is that it doesn't only live in GoHighLevel, but it lives on your own machine, on your own server. And this way, we can use it. And this is quite a pretty simple use, but imagine with thousands of leads and a lot more additional information, and maybe working with opportunities here in GoHighLevel, or some any other kind of automation and any other kind of tool, you would be able to access them through the API. And this is something I wanted to show you. This is the root directory for the API. And if we go to docs, and this is one of the most amazing things of um, FastAPI, is that it comes with a documentation already. I didn't have to do anything to get to this point. Um, we have all the endpoints, the root endpoint, the webhook post endpoint, lead endpoint, and the lead contact ID endpoint. So we can actually try it out. Trying it out here, it's exactly the same than trying it out on your browser, on Insomnia, Postman, or wherever, or making a request with Python or whatever programming language you use. So we can test it out here. Let's say I want to get the ones with minimum score 5, limit 50, skip. I don't want you to skip anything. Let's execute. Oh, we received a problem. Invalid API key. Yes, we are not putting any API key here. This is something I can show you because it is internal. So um, let me grab it. There we are. This is my API key. If we execute it right now, it should verify and we get the response. Here, ID 6, minimum of 5, we get this one. Put the limit to only 2, we would receive the first 2, and so on, because we specified all of this in the main API here. All those query parameters are specified in the get endpoint here on FastAPI. And that is something amazing. It's pretty simple to do, and it's quite fast, a lot faster than Django and Flask and all those other backend services. I mean, backend frameworks, not services. So that's it. And we can also get leads by contact ID. Of course, if you have a contact ID here, put the API key. Let's say a contact ID. I don't know. I want to get from this one, me, myself. This is the contact ID. We execute it, and I get this specific one. So that's the system that I built. It can be edited, it can be customized to achieve anything you want to achieve inside GoHighLevel, or maybe connected with some other software that you're using, even internal software that you have out there with an API from your company. It can be synchronized with anything. And that's the magic thing of programming languages and Python, and um, not using exactly low code tools like Make, Zapier, and N8N, which I personally use and I like. But for more complex things, I really like to dive into programming languages, just like Python, which is amazing for automations. This automation can easily save hours and hours if um, you have a company with hundreds of leads every month, and you manually do something about them. Any manual process that you do is taking minutes and minutes away from you that multiply that scale according to the amount of leads that you're working on. It could be either an hour a month, or if you really have a lot of leads coming in, it could be like 10, 20, 30, 40 hours a month. And that's the amazing value of this. If you multiply that 40 hours a month for a $30 per hour wage, you would have um, $1,200 saved every month by running this, whose costs of running are pretty low because Google Gemini is free. Um, the 2.5 Flash model is free. Hosting it on a droplet in in digital ocean, or hosting it on Hostinger, doesn't cost more than $10. It will be between $5 and $10. And then what else do you need? A domain. That's it. A it's an annual price that you pay, and maybe you possibly have it if you have an agency. So those are the costs involved here, and the um, that in something, in a piece of software that can save a lot of time, and it's scalable for anything you want to add in the future. And this is amazing. So if you want to build something like that, something similar to this into your company, my contact is below, my contact information, so we can talk about it. But this is the video, and this is something really interesting that I wanted to show you.